Hello everyone, welcome to the Scumdogs Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams, and in today's Cryptid Corner mini episode, I have a couple of stories, once again dealing with some very bizarre phenomena. One could be a possible skinwalker or shapeshifter sighting, and the other, well, the witness sees a static man. This phenomena might have relationship to the stickman phenomena, so we'll read on into these articles and find out. But first, let's read this article. Shapeshifting white owl encountered while driving. And hear exactly about this possible shapeshifter encounter. While driving home in central Florida one rainy evening, a witness struck what appeared to be a white owl, only to see it transform midair into something with elongated arms and shifting human-like form. The fleeting, terrifying encounter left them wondering if it was a skinwalker or something even stranger, a mystery that lingers 6 years later. I was driving home one night in central Florida when I think I saw something unusual. There was something dead lying on the road ahead, and since it was raining, I didn't get a good look. As we approached, a white owl flew towards the driver's side window. I hit it, and at that moment, the shape elongated and seemed to have arms. I'm guessing it had legs too. It all happened so quickly that I couldn't make out any details. I kept driving, scared out of my mind. When I got home, I researched snowy owls in Florida, but found no relevant information. I wondered if it might have been a skinwalker or something similar, but I tried to push it out of my mind. This happened about 6 years ago in November 2019, and since I've moved states, I'm not as freaked out anymore. What do you all think? The arms were the length of the dashboard, and the head transformed into a long shape without a big S. This could very well have been maybe some sort of encounter with a shapeshifter, folks. I'm not quite sure about it could have been a skinwalker, folks, but it sounds like to me, it sounds very similar to another account where this hunter basically shot a deer, and when he went to collect the carcass, he saw this deer man and seemed to be very angry that this hunter had shot, what presumably was his friend. In this case, folks, this owl seemed to basically be trying to get the attention of this woman and make sure that she didn't basically pay attention to this, body in the road. Maybe this body was maybe some injured shapeshifter or something, and this entity wanted to basically, make sure that she was looking at it and not at the injured, at his injured companion that she was about maybe to drive over. Maybe that's what happened here, folks. Something like that. I would like to know what happened to the carcass that she saw before she basically saw this entity. Did it basically disappear the moment that she saw this white owl? As I said, it feels like a distraction to me, folks. But then again, maybe we're misreading this whole situation. But we can talk about that later after we read the next story. 2D Static Man, Childhood Encounters with Dimensional Entity. And here, this story involving this entity, who I think has definite links to the, stickman phenomena, folks. So let's get into this article and hear what this witness saw when she was, he was growing up. A witness recalls two terrifying childhood encounters with a strange two-dimensional humanoid silhouette filled with shifting, colorful TV static appearing once on a bedroom closet door, another time on a wall in Mexico. The entity left a lasting impression of dread and mystery, suggesting a possible interdimensional intrusion rather than imagination. Let's get into the story and hear the full account now. Okay, I know this might sound crazy, but has anyone ever experienced something like this? Hear me out. The only people I've shared this with are my close family. My mom believes me, but the others think I'm just being silly. When I was a child between the ages of 8 and 11, I saw the same thing twice. It was a 2D figure, once on my closet door in my bedroom, and once while on vacation in Mexico. On the wall, just a foot away from my bed I was sleeping in, it looked like someone had drawn a roughly 5'6" stocky man's silhouette, but it was filled in with what can only be described as colorful TV static. There were no defining features, and it was dead silent except for the sound of my heartbeat. The first time I saw it, it was when I was staying in Mexico when I was 8. I remember it vividly because it was so close to me, as if the energy from it had woken me up, and I was terrified and panicked. I was sharing the bed with my sister and shook her awake, saying, "There's a man on the wall." She just grunted and said there wasn't, and then went back to sleep. I was so scared that I felt paralyzed and covered my head with the blanket. As I said, folks, it's very reminiscent of the stickman phenomena, with it basically being this flat dimensional entity. But unlike basically just being a black stickman like you'd basically see a kid draw, folks, this entity was, it sounds like basically it was the silhouette of a man. or say the shadow of a man, much like with the Shadow Man phenomena, folks. Could this have been basically some sort of variation on that as well, except this time instead of being basically stark black, it was filled in with basically static-like colors from a fridged TV? It sounds very reminiscent, doesn't it? But let's move on. The second time happened when I was in the 5th grade. I woke up feeling like someone was staring at me, and about 6 feet away on the closet door, there he was again. The same two-dimensional shape of a man, filled with moving, colorful TV static. Once again, I was frozen in fear and covered my head. I told my mom about it. She has always believed in the paranormal and suggested it might have been my guardian angel. Given all these experiences, I believe there are things out there that we don't know about, but that encounter with the colorful TV static man has always stuck with me. I thought this would be a good place to share my experience and see if I'm alone in this or if I might be losing my mind. I'm on break at work and did a quick sketch of what I saw. I'll attach it, but please, no judgment on my 3-minute art skills. We'll take a look at that sketch at the end of this article, folks, and then we can discuss it as well as basically the experience that the witness had with the shape-shifting owl. But let's finish off this article first. So let's do so. I wish my sister had looked when I told her there's a man on the wall. She said she did and that she didn't see anything, but I woke her up from a deep sleep, so I don't know. Like that validation that your sister also saw was probably really nice, you know. So you don't doubt yourself. The validation that I never got, which made me keep this inside, aside from telling my mom as a kid for 20 years, I'm now getting from this post saying they saw something similar, gives me that so I thank you, and everyone who responded. For some reason, I felt like I wasn't supposed to see it, and it was there when I was telling my sister, and that she didn't see it, only I could see it. Then again, she was in the middle of sleeping. Maybe she didn't even look. It felt like it didn't belong, or like I didn't belong, or something, like I peered into a different dimension that I wasn't supposed to see. You don't know. It was so strange and scary for me. When I was younger, I do get visual snow sometimes, where I get little floaters that look like little worms or something. But this was so vivid. The fact that I saw the same thing twice, years apart, and I guess now I know others have seen something similar. I'm pretty positive this wasn't visual snow. It was so vivid that it's seared in my memory over 20 years later. Okay, folks, what do you make of this encounter? It sounds like to me that this entity was targeting this young man here. I'm just not quite sure why. It sounds like other encounters with various paranormal phenomena or even UFO encounters, folks, where sometimes these entities are literally basically, well, they want the witness to see them. Is this possibly what happened here? Now, here's the witness's sketch, folks, and as you can see, it does give you an idea that this guy saw what literally looked like basically just a man made of static. But he says it looked more like a man rather than this, literally like a stick figure that we're getting here, folks. But then again, remember, this has been over 20 years since he had his last encounter with this entity, so maybe he's possibly misremembering what he actually saw, folks, because, as I said, if you saw this entity, it looks more like literally like a stick figure, or like basically a misshapen shadow. And that's exactly what I'm saying, folks, but it was actually a shadow man. But this one, very much like basically with the stories of Glimmer Man, how basically they seem to basically be these see-through entities that basically look and resemble very much like the entity or alien from the Predator movies. This entity was maybe something similar, but instead of basically being see-through, maybe it's, camouflage technology basically somehow, as I said before, folks, maybe it was intentional or not, but maybe it was just broken. It could basically have been an intentional move by this interdimensional or alien entity to show itself off to this young witness, but that's just all speculation. And what about the White Owl encounter that we read earlier, folks, this shapeshifter? Do you think it was a skinwalker, or do you think it literally was just some sort of shapeshifting entity that basically we've read so many stories about such entities before, folks? Your guess is as good as mine as to the true identity of this being. It could have been a skinwalker, but, it just feels to me that maybe, it possibly wasn't. But then again, until we get more information, we can only just guess at it. Do you think that these encounters with both the Static Man and this White Owl cryptid are true, folks? As I've said before, folks, I think definitely these things happen, but we're at the end, folks, so please go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you. You can use the YouTube link down below in the descriptions or the chat to go subscribe to me. Hit that like button for me. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that bell for notifications. Make sure to hit the part of the bell to give you all future notifications, and please share this video out. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining me. I'll be back again tomorrow with another great video, so be sure to come back again then. Till next time, folks, I'll see you all again soon.